Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Asian Seller Podcast. I'm your host, Meghla Bharadwaj, and today we're going to be talking about a really important topic that is often overlooked by Amazon sellers, especially people who are just starting out, and that is quality control and inspections. And to talk about this, I have with me Rahul Chawla from Keema, that was formerly AsiaInspection. Hey, Rahul, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Mila. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So today we're going to be talking a lot about, inspections and quality control and how Amazon sellers can make sure that products that they source from either China or India
Yeah,
comply with, all of the regulations, requirements, and
right.
also the quality is consistent. So before we go into all of that, Rahul, why don't
Mhm.
you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you end up working in the QC industry?
Interesting. So, just to introduce myself, my name is Rahul Chawla, and I work as a Senior Business Development Manager at Keema. How I ended up in QC? Well, honestly, I'm a textile engineer. To give you the background about myself, so after graduating, I did not wish to go into a typical textile mill, and I thought of doing something else. So I ended up working with a big QC company in New Delhi, and yeah, that's how I started working in QC 11 years ago.
Okay.
Uh,
And you're currently based in China, right?
yes, so I'm in Shenzhen, China, which is the biggest office for Keema, besides the Hong Kong being our head office and other treaty offices. So Shenzhen is the biggest operations office for Keema, where I'm based.
Interesting. How long have you been in Shenzhen?
This is my fifth year now.
Okay, awesome. Do
Yeah,
you speak Chinese now?
Indian.
Ethiopian, a little.
Little, yeah. That's all
Yeah,
we learned the first thing.
exactly. And
Yeah,
PNEDN, which means like make it
yeah,
cheaper.
yeah. Make it cheaper. Hanguila, it's too
Too
expensive. Yeah,
expensive, yeah.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so Rahul, you've been working with so many Amazon sellers over the years. Like I see you in practically all the networking events and
Yeah,
conferences, especially in
yeah,
Hong Kong and
yeah.
Shenzhen, Guangzhou. So talking to Amazon sellers and working with them, what are some of the most common mistakes that you see Amazon
Mhm,
sellers making when it comes to product quality or inspections when they're
mhm,
sourcing private label products from China or India?
mhm. In broader terms, if you ask me, the most common would be the communication and clarity of expectations. Now, when I say communication, clarity of expectations, of course, the sellers, they know what the product they have to sell, where they have to source from. But when they, communicate with the supplier, the factory, most of the time, they're not very clear what they expect the product to be. Like they will say, okay, I need a leather wallet. Now, what exactly you want into it, what kind of quality you expect. So in my opinion, I always advise the sellers that not just the product specifications, but in the beginning itself you should tell them the quality parameters also, define them clearly from the beginning itself, share it with the supplier so that they're well informed that okay, this is the quality parameters that they have to follow, these are the defect classifications and everything. And if you remember, a lot of times it's been spoken about the supplier contracts. Now, we always see the experts advising that those contracts should be in Chinese and also in English. The same way, I highly advise all these product specifications, quality parameters, everything should also be translated into Chinese and given to the factories, because maybe the factory owner or one or two more people might know English and they would understand, but the real person on the production line, they may not know English. Sorry, English. So it's important that you tell them in Chinese also, give them a document so that they know exactly. So most common what I see, most sellers, they don't tell the supplier in very detailed manner what they expect, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is the on the contract level again. It's important that the factories, the supplier are told well in advance that look, we are going to pay for the first inspection or the first lab test. But if things go wrong, you got to pay for the re-inspection or the rework or retesting, because then they get more serious. If you don't tell them in advance, either they will not be serious or they will come back to you again and ask you to pay if you ask for a re-inspection or a retest, which gonna be expensive probably sometimes for you if it is happening again and again. Some suppliers, they tend to rework 2 times 3 times, and it's gonna be a mess. Okay, so that's the first thing in terms of communication. The second thing, and this happens more than the first thing, is asking the sourcing company, the factory itself, a logistics company to do the inspection. Now this is the worst situation. Why? Because of course, if I'm a supplier to you, say you are a seller, you give me an order for a product. Now, why would I show you a defect? If I tell you that the defects, you might cancel the order. I will lose my business. Even if it's a sourcing company, they are paid some commission. They will lose their commission. If it's a logistics company, they will lose the logistics part of the business. So it's always advisable that a third party inspection company is hired to do the inspection. So, and look, every company has got its own expertise in their own service. Logistics guys are very good at logistics. They know what they're doing, right? Sourcing guys are very good at sourcing. Okay. So in my opinion, all these individual processes should be separated into separate companies.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. And, talking about your first point, communicating product specifications, I think that's just so important.
Yeah.
And it's little things like, specifying the color that you want, because
Yes.
sometimes, buyers would say, I want a deep yellow or a dark
Yeah.
green,
Yeah.
but there are so many shades of green and
Yeah.
yellow, right? So
Yeah.
you've got to make
Yeah.
sure that you're absolutely clear
Yeah.
and you give the actual Pantone code of that color to
Exactly.
the supplier.
Exactly.
So it's things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
Give
agree.
them the Pantone code, even the defect classification. Now, maybe a 2 centimeter scratch is nothing for you. Okay. But maybe 5 centimeter scratch is critical. Okay. Make sure you tell them, because the guys at the actual production line will take care of those things accordingly from the beginning itself. So I would say, don't be a firefighter, be proactive, tell them in advance.
Right. Okay, great. So, you've also worked with, of course, a lot of brands and retailers. So, what are
Yes.
some of the differences that you see between how Amazon sellers approach quality and how big brands and retailers manage quality?
Well, that's a big difference. And the biggest difference is because most of the Amazon sellers are small businesses. Take away the 6-figure, 7-figure sellers, most of them are smaller. Now, their challenge is because they are a 1% company, maybe 2 or 3% company at the max, and they're not technical enough people. They are more like business oriented people. Maybe they will have someone good at sourcing, but when it comes to quality management or certification, testing, and so on, those topics, they don't have enough expertise or knowledge base. Unlike the retailers, like we work with a lot of retailers like Gap and Ralph Lauren and so on. So they have people dedicated for quality control or product compliance. So that's the biggest difference. The other thing is, even at the retailer side, they have a lot of data. They even engage with their front end sales staff and get feedback in terms of quality. They are into different other kind of forums which talk about regulatory compliance and so on. So these are the differences in terms of having a dedicated person for such topics. So that's the biggest difference, I would say. Further, it's also in terms of the mentality of the businesses. Retailers, they take a different approach. They say, okay, if the quality is good, if the product is compliant with the regulation, it's going to sell eventually in a better manner. Unlike on the Amazon business side, the sellers are more focused on sales, they're more focused on marketing, while they tend to put less focus on product quality, which shouldn't be the case. Of course, I mean, if the product is good, definitely it will sell. There'll be lesser returns, there'll be lesser bad reviews, maybe no bad reviews. So I would recommend, focus more on the product itself. If the product is good, your sales is going to be good.
Right. And of course, on Amazon, this is specifically really very important
Yeah,
because if you get a bad rating, then that's basically the end of your, sales velocity and all. So,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
think some.
exactly,
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that sometimes sellers who are just starting out and they have a small volume
Hmm.
of products and a small value, they don't really have the profit margins to
Yeah.
really conduct inspection. So, that's a challenge that I see. But again, I
Mm,
think that if sellers don't even have that margin to take out
mm,
$300 for an inspection, or maybe less, then they need to take another look at the product that they're doing,
yeah.
and see that if it's really a viable product in the long
Yeah.
term.
No, you absolutely said it right. And honestly, if I tell you a rough estimation from my experience in QC industry for 11 years, most of the time, the actual share of investment on QC and product compliance is roughly maybe 2%.
Mm.
So I think investing 2% to secure your rest of the 98% is really worth it, that cost.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of the common quality issues that you see? Can you give us some recent examples, let's say, of quality related issues that maybe your
Yeah.
clients and specifically Amazon sellers have encountered?
Yeah. Yeah. So most often, the issues around quality, if you ask, is mostly about the functionality of the product, brand labels, logos, general workmanship. They're very good at packaging because Seller Central has the packaging rules and they follow. But the actual product functionality, logos, general workmanship is something they don't do so well. So those are the key issues that we see very often. And again, like I said in the beginning, I think it's mainly because the expectations are not communicated well from the beginning.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're of course based in China, but Keema has operations in a lot of different countries. And in fact,
Yes.
we were in India just last
Yeah.
week for our
Yeah.
India sourcing trip, and
Yeah.
that was really amazing. So here's
Yeah.
a cup that I got from one of the attendees, my Australia
I
cup.
saw. I saw the picture. Yeah. I saw
Yeah.
the picture. Yeah.
So what are some of the differences that you see, between China and India in terms of how quality is managed by buyers? And
Hmm.
do you see, more issues in India or China, or, is it the same? And are the issues really different in
Uh-huh.
India or China?
Uh, okay, I have mixed reviews about this, to be honest. Uh, Look, if someone compares India with China in terms of production capacities, capabilities, or infrastructure and automation of things, yes, China has got an edge. But when you talk of the real human intervention, you know, the real person who is producing something or the factory owner who is talking to you to get to do the business with you, that's kind of comparable. So, uh, on paper, if you see the quality performance, we do a lot of analysis of the numbers from the data we have from our clients. The beyond AQL rate is still worse in India as of now. It's changing, it's getting better. But then, of course, if you look at the whole array of things comparing India with China, I would say it's comparable. Uh, of course, you have bad factories everywhere, you have good factories everywhere. It depends, again, communication. It depends how you communicate to the supplier, the factory, what kind of guidelines you give them, how much you engage with them. So it really depends on the mutual collaboration. It depends, how you focus on the continuous improvement of things with the supplier, as in the relationship with the supplier, the continuous improvement of the product itself. You have the same product again and again. And yeah, if you talk of India, especially, I would say, treat the supplier more as a partner, not just as a supplier. They really love to engage with their clients, with their buyers. They want to be treated nicely. I won't say, yeah. So
Yeah, I think yeah.
yeah, treat them as a partner because see, I'll tell you, China primarily is very business focused. India is more on the personal relationships. You go and see them, give them some gift when you come, from your country. have some chit chat sometimes. And yeah, the good thing in India is because there's a huge population who speaks English. So it's actually easier there to communicate the quality parameters, like I was telling earlier, unlike in China where you have to maybe translate in Chinese or have a Chinese translator along with you when you go to the factory. So, like I said, it's mixed review, I would say. But on paper, China is still better in few things.
Okay,
In
interesting.
the broader terms, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of developing partnerships and relationships in India. I think that's just so important, and we've seen that with some of the people who are with us on the trip.
Mm-hmm.
They were, there's Margaret and Kevin. I'm sure you know them from
Yeah,
Australia. So they
yeah,
were one of the
yeah,
coaches on India sourcing trip,
yeah, yeah.
and they've been sourcing from this one supplier for almost 2 years now. And they
Mm-hmm.
visited the factory in Moradabad. They spent 2 days
Yeah,
with the supplier,
yeah, yeah.
and they were like treated so well. They came in, they were invited to the supplier's house. They had dinner,
Mm,
lunch with
yeah,
them, and they said that now we're almost like family.
yeah,
The supplier has told them, next time you come to Moradabad, you have to stay in our house, and here's your
yeah,
bedroom, and
yeah,
you can come work
yeah,
in our office.
yeah,
We've given you a room in the
yeah,
office as well to work.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that's really
yeah.
important, developing
Yeah,
the
it
relationship.
definitely works. I'll tell you just recent example from last evening. So we are going to start working with a big French brand very soon, and they sent me the supplier list yesterday, and I was looking at the names, and I could see some names from my beginning of my career 10 years ago. I'm like, oh, I know this guy. And I called him up. I said, "You're going working with this company in France?" He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "Okay, time to work again." So those things really matter. You grow your relationship, and things go well eventually.
That's right. Totally agree with that. So,
Yeah,
in terms of, first of all, can you explain AQL a little bit to the audience? Some people are very new; they might not know
yeah,
what it is.
yeah, yeah. So AQL is accepted quality level. So it's a standard which is accepted internationally. I can send you the link later on, which you can read about. So when we do an inspection, okay, we take a sample out of the whole lot. Like take an example, you have 2,000 pieces of one product. Okay, so most widely used level is level 2. Based on level 2, we should pull out 125 pieces of that product. So it's a method of probability, calculations based on which we define the accepted number of pieces and rejected number of pieces. I'll share you the link. That will give a very good, explanation of it.
Okay, that's cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about product testing now, because
Yeah.
that's also really important, especially when you're dealing with products that are, maybe they touch the skin, or are there for babies, or, electronics products. So first of all, like, can you tell us what's the difference between testing a product and getting certified?
Okay, so most people actually confuse it, and thank you for asking this. Testing is something which is needed for every product. Certification depends on the product. Maybe yes, maybe no. So take an example. If it's a toy, okay, you're selling in EU. Yes, you will need CE certification. But then if you are just selling a leather wallet, you just need reach testing. So what we do at Keema is we ask for the product details from the seller, some very basic details, and then we tell exactly what tests are needed, and if a certification needed, what certification is needed. So certification may not be needed in every case. It depends on the product itself.
Okay, that makes sense. And so when exactly should the product testing done? Should it be done on the sample, or should it be done once production starts?
In my recommendation, ideally at the beginning of the production itself. Sample, I wouldn't say for sample, because of course samples are the best product they have. Maybe they'll pull out a best sample from their showroom and they will give it to you. It's gonna be passing, of course. Okay, but when I say the actual production, which is of your lot, the PO that you gave to them, you get tested on that particular production in the beginning itself. Now, why I say, like, take an example of leather again. Okay, there are certain chemicals which creep in just when the leather is exposed to the atmosphere. Okay, it's all chemistry. So it's better that you get it tested when the production starts. Why at the stage of production start? Because if things go wrong, they have enough time to change the material. So I would say right at the beginning, maybe 5% production, pull out some pieces, get them tested. Because it's a matter of chemicals. If things go wrong, they will have to change the entire material from that product. Unlike if you get it tested later on, yeah, that's a worse. You won't have enough time to change it.
Okay. And if you get the sample tested, then that's also not very
No,
valuable because they might, they have a different
it will
lot of
pass.
materials. It'll
Yeah,
pass.
yeah,
Okay.
it
Okay.
will pass. So you
Yeah.
get your own production tested, your very
Okay.
own production tested in the beginning.
So does that mean that we need to get product tested for every production run?
Uh, Not every production. It depends. Normally, what we recommend is get it done every year. The
Okay.
reason being, many times the regulations get updated, maybe in 6 months or a year. The second reason why we recommend every year, because maybe the factory changes, something else happens in the factory. Most importantly, even within the year, if the material changes, you change the color, you add a hook, you add a button, you add a bead, you remove a bead, get it tested again. You make a slight design change, get it tested again. Or at least have it reviewed by a lab whether you need it to be tested again or not. Don't take chances. I'll tell you, most people, what they do is they go online, check for things, and they get 15, 20 different websites and they try to draw a conclusion from them. I would recommend don't go online, don't look for there, because again, Amazon sellers are not technical people. So the best is you talk to a lab. We got people who are, experts. They are PhD degree holders and so on. They know what they're doing. I mean, that's our core business. So we are most updated with those requirements. So ask us. We don't charge for any product review for quality compliance. We can tell happily without charging you anything, and then you can proceed if the things are needed.
Okay, interesting. So of course, there are different certifications, required for different regions. But
Yeah.
what are some of the, like mandatory tests, and what are some of
Mhm.
the nice to have tests that sellers can consider?
Okay, when you ask me mandatory, I would say go, of course, for the regulation related tests like CPSIA or California Prop 65 or REACH or LFGB and such things. Anything that has to do with the regulations and the laws. Besides that, nice to have will be like functional tests, quality tests. If you have a textile or apparel related product, go for color, fastness, or shrinkage. That's like the tests which cannot be done in the inspection, you get them done in the lab. Like say shrinkage, so we put the product to the actual test of say 3 washes or maybe dry clean, and we see is the dimension stable or not. That's actually the quality of the product. It's nothing to do with the regulation. Okay, unlike CPSIA or California Prop 65, where we check for chemicals in that product, which is to do with the regulation. So regulations, mandatory, quality side, nice to have.
Okay, that's pretty easy to understand. So what about using reports from suppliers? Because suppliers also have test reports for
Yeah, yeah.
products. Is that advisable?
Definitely no.
Okay.
And honestly, I get this question 2 to 3 times a day. uh, Few reasons. Number one, test reports from suppliers are not in the name of the seller. You have to have a test report in name of your company. Number two, suppliers, they don't know what to test. They just get it tested. They also look up online. Yeah, 5 tests. Okay, let me get this done. Second thing, their reports are not updated as per the regulation. Sometimes maybe the report is too old. And the worst, the reports are fake sometimes. I have seen reports with my own eyes in Canton Fair. They put up the report on their booth. XX company tested my product, and the report is like 5 years old. And I told this guy, like, Don't you think in 5 years the regulations must have been updated? And like, oh, I'm just a sales guy. I don't know. I can talk to my quality person in my factory. So this is really not advisable. Really, really not advisable. And again, like I said, those reports maybe are done on the sample. Maybe it's not done on your own production. So have your own production tested, fresh, have the report in your name, which is not fake. You get the report directly from the lab, and it is most updated as per the recent regulation. Best scenario.
Okay, interesting. So then what's the process of getting a product test done?
Okay, so with Keema, I would say it's very simple. The seller simply needs to send us some details of the product, like what the product is, send us a picture, what are its specifications, what is it made of, what is the age group of the final user, where will you sell it, Germany, US, where, and where are you producing it. Once you give me these 8 details, our lab experts will tell you exactly what are the mandatory tests or what are the good to have tests within 24 hours. Once you say, okay, I'm good with these tests, let's continue. So we will guide you to have an online account with us. You book it online, ask your factory to send the sample to our lab, and we test it within 5 days. You have the report.
Oh, that's pretty easy. So then, do you have an online form where this information needs to be sent to you, or does it should they just send it by email? How is it done?
Anything is okay with us. You can do it online, or you can just send it to the email, and both things are possible.
Okay, so we'll put this information on the
Sure,
podcast page so that
sure,
people have access to it. So yeah,
sure.
because that's very helpful. Because many times, sellers don't really know which
Mhm.
certifications and which tests they need for specific products. So something
Yeah,
like this will be very helpful, where they can get all of this information
yeah,
from
yeah,
Keema, which really specializes in this. So
yeah.
that's very helpful. So approximately how much does a product test cost? Just range.
That's again a question I get twice a day. I kind of don't want to say a number to this because I'll tell you what, look, if you have a pen, okay, a normal pen with just white color, body made of, say, some plastic, maybe $100. You add one color, something adds up. You add another color, add a button to it, add some other accessory, keeps changing. So, like I said, the things I asked just now, the 8 details of the product, why we ask, because based on those details, we define, okay, this product will need these tests. So let me explain. Product name. What is the product? So we look at the category. Okay, is it a toy or is it a general consumer item, and what? Picture. We want to see what it looks like. Does it have too many colors or some design aspect which can be coming under some regulation? Like, say, if it's a toy and has a sharp edge, okay, as per the CPSIA, the sharp edges test has to be taken care of. So, picture materials it is made of. So we want to know what kind of plastic is it, what kind of stainless steel is it, different materials, because based on different materials, different chemicals could be involved. Okay. Now, when we ask what is the use of the product, take an example, a kitchen product. Okay. We want to know what part of a bottle comes in contact with the food. Okay. Or even if it's a watch. Okay. We want to know which side of the watch will come in contact with the skin, right? So, and then the age group of the user, is it going to be used by children? Okay. So we want to know, because for children, there are different other regulations. If it's for children under 36 months, different regulations. Okay. If you are, and then we ask for the final market. If you're selling in Germany, kitchenware, you need LFGB. If you're selling children's products in California, different regulations. So based on these details, we have to make sure what regulations are to be followed, what are the tests under those regulations, test methods for those tests. And that's why it is hard for us to tell a range or even one number, okay, for toys, X amount of dollars. It's very hard for us to say, because every product is unique in its own sense. And Amazon sellers love to make, their products very unique every time. They want to solve problems for people. So they make very unique products and things change.
Right.
So if someone asks the number, very hard to say. And I don't want to comment on the number. I've seen cases when, people tell us some details, we bring a number on the rough estimation, and later on they change the product, something changes and the sample arrives at the lab, and some more tests are added and they are in a shock. Oh, you added X amount of dollars more. What happened? So I don't want to shock people later on.
Okay. So it could range from a couple of hundred to a couple of $1,000s,
Yeah,
right?
I would say it's
Depending.
not too expensive. Like I said
Yeah.
earlier, normally QC and lab testing would not be like maybe 2 or 3% of your total cost of your shipment. So it's not too high. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we can tell in advance. You once you finalize your product, send us the details. You get the review for free. We don't charge for the review, and then you make your choice.
Okay, makes sense. So that was product testing. So let's talk about inspections, because that's,
Mm-hmm.
of course, another very important aspect related to product quality. So first of all, what are the different types of inspections that there are,
Mm-hmm.
and when is each of them done?
Okay, so inspections can be done at any stage of the production. We call one as initial production check, IPC, which is done at the very beginning, under 20% production stage. Then during production check, which is from 20 to 80% production stage, and pre-shipment inspection, which people call as also final inspection. That can be done when more than 80% goods are ready and packed. And the last one is called container loading check. If you're not sure whether the supplier will stuff it correctly in the container, you want to get the container itself seen before the goods are loaded. So that is container loading check. This is most commonly asked by people who have very fragile products. They want them to be stuffed correctly and nicely in the container. So that's asked. Now, going back to the different stages of production and the inspections we do, uh, most common is final inspection. Even today, even the big companies we work with, they ask for pre-shipment inspection. But in some cases, we also do during production check. Now, this is something good to have. The reason being, if you do an inspection, maybe 20, 30%, 40% production stage, you find some problems, you have good amount of time to, rectify those problems with the supplier and have a final production done in a better manner. So if you have budget to spend one man day in the, during the production of your product, it's good to do. It's good to do.
Okay. So most of the larger brands, I guess, or people, retailers, brands that are sourcing in higher volumes, um, they're mostly also doing pre-shipment inspection, right? And then some of them are doing during product, right?
Yes, yes. By and large, they do pre-shipment inspections. During production check, they ask sometimes. Otherwise, at least they are doing with their own internal QCs or maybe with their factory QCs. But if the product is a very precision product or a high quality product, then they ask us also.
Okay. And Amazon sellers, of course, mostly by and large, they just do pre-shipment inspection.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, what kind of rejection rates have you seen for inspection, specifically related to, Amazon sellers? Is the rejection rate very high, or is it low, or is it, average?
Mm, okay, let me first define rejection itself.
Mm-hmm.
In our business, we only pass or fail a product inspection. We go to the factory, we do the inspection. Based on the findings, based on the AQL standards, we pass or fail. The rejection, as you asked, or the approval is done by our client, the seller. So there are two numbers actually. If you ask me pass or fail numbers, it is different. If you ask me approve or rejection numbers, it's different. I don't have the numbers on my screen right now, but uh, if I remember correctly, roughly 60% would be like failed.
Wow, that's a significant
Yeah,
amount.
yeah, yeah. I can pull out the numbers for you later on, the exact numbers, but
Yeah.
what I recall approximately is like 60% is fail.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happens when the inspection fails? Like, what is the next step? Then you go to the client, and then the client makes a
Yeah.
call, right?
Yeah. So when we fail an inspection, of course, the report goes to our client, the seller, and they take a call. If it is viable commercially, they still approve it. If they really say very gross deviations, then they reject it and they ask the factory to rework. Now, here is an important thing, and I would really ask attention of every seller here. Make sure you get the inspection done minimum 3 days before the shipment.
Mm.
Minimum. The reason is there will be something wrong each time, and you should have good amount of days to see the report, to take a decision, and even tell the factory, discuss with them for the rework. I have seen a lot of suppliers, and they play a lot of good tricks. They tell the seller, oh, the product is not ready yet, not ready yet, not ready yet. At the last 11th hour, they say, okay, now we can do the inspection. They don't want to give you enough time to ask them to do the rework. They really want you to just let it go. It happens. It happens with Amazon sellers. It happens with the larger clients also. Suppliers, they like to play these tricks, especially with small sellers. They think, okay, this seller will come today and he'll ask for 1,000 pieces and he's not going to come tomorrow. So let me just get rid of this guy. So they just want to do everything in hanky panky and get things done in a quicker way.
Mm.
So
Okay.
make sure you do the inspection at least 3 days in advance before the shipment goes out. And again, put it in the supplier contract. Again, that rework, reinspection, if asked, will be paid by them. Also, put it in the contract that they should not ship out until you give your decision on the report. Sometimes sellers say, oh, the inspection company passed it. Even if we pass the report, have a thorough review of the report. It's no harm. We give a very detailed report with lots and lots of pictures and data to give you the real picture what we saw. So have a thorough review first, then you give your approval, and then let them ship it out.
Okay, makes sense. So is there a minimum order value or volume for a pre-shipment inspection? Because sometimes sellers, they are placing very small orders and they don't really have margins for an inspection.
Mm.
So, what should these sellers do if they're placing very small orders?
Okay. I would say there is no minimum to this. Even if you order 200 pieces, you should do it. Now, that's a difference. We were talking earlier about Amazon sellers and the retailers. Retailers don't think twice when it comes to quality or compliance. Because look, as I said earlier, 2% or some percent of your cost is securing your other investment in that business. Okay. So you have to make sure that nothing goes wrong with quality. The product complies with the requirements and the regulations, so that nothing goes wrong later on. Because I'll give you a simple example. A leather wallet, okay, or let's take a toy. Okay. Now you sell a toy. First of all, if you don't do a quality control inspection, maybe there'll be scratches, bad, color, packaging is not right, very bad experience in the hands of the customer when he first receives it. Second, let's go to the testing part, regulation part. If the product fails, if something is very hazardous for the customer, really, really bad repercussion. You might have a recall, you may be sued, you will have really, really bad review. So I don't think it's worth enough to skip this when your whole business is relying on this.
Right, totally makes
Right.
sense. And I think increasingly Amazon is getting more strict in terms
Oh
of
yes.
quality and
Oh
compliance
yes.
and everything. So
Yeah.
moving
Yeah.
forward, this is going to be,
Yeah.
extremely
We
very
work.
important.
Yeah, exactly. We work very closely with Amazon itself. We are Amazon approved, by the way, and I'm myself involved with Amazon office also. They randomly pick up goods. I
Mm.
remember one specific call from a UK seller, and the guy called me like crazy hours, even in the UK time. He was calling me, Rahul, my goods are stuck in the Europe warehouse of Amazon. They have flagged it. They're asking me for testing reports. I have none. And the guy was told, either you give us the reports or we dispose of every single piece within 4 days. Think of that situation.
Yeah.
So have it, tested, have the testing reports, not just for Amazons that they could flag and you provide them, but in a general way, I would take this as a conscious thought also. Think of your own life. Think of if you would use that product, if your loved ones would use that product. Would you like an unsafe product in your own hands? No. Think at yourself as a customer, and then you decide.
Right, makes sense. So in terms of inspections, what is like the basic process of, let's say, a pre-shipment inspection? How is it done? Can you just walk us through the process from start to end?
Sure. So to begin with, I would say have a checklist done of the product. Define a good checklist. What I mostly recommend the sellers is think yourself as a customer. So if you're selling a toy, think of that toy. What you really look in that toy. Okay, you want to have it in good color, good shape. Label should be fine, color should be okay. It should function well as it has to be. The look and feel should be nice. So jot down those points which you would look for as an actual customer. Okay. Then, of course, you can contact Keema or any inspection company and ask them for their inputs, because we got a lot of experience, of course, in inspection. So we have our own checklist and we can help you to further finalize it. Okay. So in terms of Keema, if you ask, we have the checklist of more than 1,000 different products we do for many different clients in many different countries, more than 85 countries we cover. So we have a lot of experience in different products. So we can help you with finalizing the checklist. Once the checklist is finalized, number one, like I said earlier, share it with the factory. Tell them that this is a checklist we have, and when the inspection guys come in, this is what will be followed. Okay. So have the checklist done, book the inspection, at least 3 days in advance before the shipment has to go. Okay. And very important, have an approval sample on site for the inspector so that he can compare with it. Okay. This is important. So that the inspector, when he goes to the factory, he has a sample in hand, he can compare with it and follow the checklist accordingly. Okay. Other thing is have all the technical documents like say measurement charts, technical specifications, pictures, everything. Have it ready in advance. Give it to the factory. Give it to the inspection company also. Okay. This helps for creating a nice inspection protocol for the inspector. So the inspector will go to the factory after you book, and the sample will be chosen randomly. Like I told earlier, out of 2,000, say an example, we'll choose 125 randomly from different, corner of the heap. So this is actually interesting. Okay, when some companies, like say sourcing company or the factory itself, they do the inspection even when you are there. Okay, now Amazon sellers, the new ones, they don't know. They will pull out pieces from the first outer, layer of the cartons. Okay, because they try to hide the defective goods in the center, or they just keep them away. What we do is we have a sampling method wherein we go into the every single possible corner and we pull out samples from those, deepest corners of the lot.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. So, suppliers would tend to, just kind of show you the good products, right, and hide the defects and all. So there has to be a method to doing that. So, okay, that's really interesting. So how much does an inspection cost approximately?
Okay, so I'll tell you exact and not just approximately. For any place in China, India, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Thailand, and some other Asian countries, the price is $309 per man day, all inclusive. When I say all inclusive, it includes the travel cost of the inspector. If it is multiple man day inspection, all the accommodation, his food, and everything. You don't pay anything extra. No matter where it is in China, where it is in India or Thailand or Vietnam or Bangladesh and so on. So we give you one all-inclusive price anywhere in that country.
Okay, that's really good. And of course, all the booking can be done online, so
Yes,
it's very
yes.
very easy to do.
It's very easy to do. So the client has an account with us. They can simply go online on their laptop or any public computer also, even on a phone, by the way. So while people these days are in trade shows and suddenly, oh, my production is ready, let me get an inspection done. Very easy. Pull out your phone. You have our app, log in there, and you book an inspection while you're walking down the show.
Okay. So apart from inspections, testing, what other services does Keema offer?
So we also do factory audits, and this is something new that has come. That has come in Amazon FBA business. It's already there with Amazon's own private label business. Many sellers have started asking us for ethical audits. So when I say ethical audits, we check for social compliance details like there should be no child labor, there should be no forced labor, minimum wages should be paid, there should be no harassment in the factory, there should be no obscenely bad overtime in the factory and so on. So we have certain protocols that we follow. We have one protocol that we have developed out of our own experience and the best practices in the industry. And we also follow international standards like SMETA or SEDEX or BSCI. So those are the audits that we do in terms of ethical compliance. Besides that, we also do manufacturing audit. This is interesting, especially if the seller is not sure whether the factory is good enough for them or not. So maybe you walk around the Canton Fair or some show in Hong Kong and you choose 2 or 3 suppliers, but then you're not able to go there. Okay, so on behalf of you, we can visit the factory, do a thorough audit on them for the full day. So we check how many people they have, how many machines do they have, are the machines working or not. Yes, it happens. Machines are shown, but they're not working in the pictures. What kind of licenses do they have? Do they have a QA team internally? Do they have a R&D team? Do they follow lean or Kaizen and so on? So it's a very thorough audit, which we call as manufacturing audit. Besides this, one thing I should mention here, Amazon acquired a company recently called Souq, SOUQ, in Middle East. So they sell in Saudi Arabia also, and that's something we actually help for sellers who are selling in Saudi Arabia. We have a service called SASO certification service. So SASO is basically a certification program in Saudi Arabia. So any product which is exported to Saudi Arabia has to go through this compliance program. So we are one of the approved third-party certification company for SASO compliance also. So if there are sellers who want to sell in Saudi Arabia, we can help them as well for this.
Okay. And then you're, of course, in a lot of different countries, right? How many
Yes.
countries are you in? And
As of today, we are in more than 85 countries. So just to give you total glimpse of the coverage, Hong Kong is our head office. Then we have got another office and lab in Hong Kong. So we have 2 locations in Hong Kong itself. Then we have office in Shenzhen, where I sit. We have offices in Hangzhou, which is also a lab. There is another office in Hangzhou. And then there are a few other offices in China, India, Bangladesh, Middle East, Americas, and Europe. So we have 20 offices globally, and then we have our own employees who work on the ground, inspectors and auditors in different countries. So if you have tomorrow, you think of production in Poland, we are there. If you think of buying fabrics from Italy, we are there. If you want to buy a garment from Haiti, we are there. South Africa, yes, we work in a lot of African countries too.
interesting. So what's Keema's background? Like, how did the company start? And you also rebranded recently to Keema,
Yes,
right? You
yes,
were AsiaInspection earlier.
right.
So tell us a little bit about that. Why did you
Sure.
do that?
So we actually started 17 years ago. Our CEO and founder, Sebastian Prato, he actually had his own trading company earlier, and he used to face a lot of challenges with QC and going after third parties to get the QC done. So he thought, let me serve the industry and let me start a company for QC. So that's how he started Asia Inspection back then in Hong Kong and further expanded. Speaking of the rebranding, which we did in December 2018, the key reasons why we changed the name to Keema, one, of course, we wanted a shorter name. Asian Inspection was a bit longer for people to even spell. The second thing was because it got confusing for clients and people, because we don't do only inspection and we don't do only in Asia. We are, more than Asia, and we are more than inspection. So eventually, we then rebranded to Keema in December 2018.
Okay, makes sense. So, of course, there are a lot of different inspection companies out there, and especially in China, you can get an inspection done for $80 as well. You can have individual inspectors too. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think is the USP of Keema? Like, how are you different from other inspection companies in China and India?
Okay, to begin with, I'll just put one thing. It's different when you get a car checked by a driver than having it checked by an automobile engineer. Number one. Number two, we are Amazon approved. So even Amazon trusts us well. We are members of the Amazon Service Provider Network. If you go in Seller Central and look for the service providers, you will find us there. So we have all the understanding of Amazon requirements that the sellers, need to comply with. The next thing would be our speed of service. So if you ask us for inspection, even day after tomorrow, we are more than happy to do it without question asked. 48 hours, we are on site anywhere you ask us, anywhere in the world. You get the report the same day. Okay. Even the lab testing reports you get within 4 days. We are talking about online access. You're walking the show, you want inspection, just simply book the inspection. You don't need to call someone in China, struggle with the language barrier, send an email which might be read after, maybe 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. You don't need all of that. It's very easy for you to, order our services. Global coverage, like I told you, not just China. Business is changing. There are tariffs. There are other problems in the business today. You want to move out of China. You want inspection to be done in India or Vietnam or Bangladesh or South Africa, Swaziland, anywhere. We are there. Pricing, like I said. Now, when you say $80 in some cases or 100, there are problems there. One, they would add travel fee or other fee later on. You get shocks when you see the real invoice later on. Two, most of these companies don't have the proper accreditations. They don't have the licenses. Now we have ISO 17020. We are members of IFIA. We are licensed by AQSIQ. Okay. And then we just don't rely on one person who is doing the inspection. When you order an inspection, there are so many people involved. Let me just quickly brief you out how it works. When you book an inspection on our website, an email first comes to me, okay, being an account manager for you. I will know you ordered for the inspection, this product, this date, blah, blah, blah. An email will go to the actual factory where the inspection has to happen. They have to confirm online that they are ready on that date at that address. An email goes to our operations team in the back office who check all the technical details which you upload, pictures, specifications, everything. Okay. They will make sure that all the details that they need to create a protocol is right. If something is missing, they come back to you. There is another team called coordination team. These guys talk to the factory. If they don't respond on the first email, they call them up, make sure that they are ready. If they don't respond, we again come back to you. If they want to change the date, we come back to you. Then everything is done, everything is ready. An inspection protocol is created by another team. This protocol is sent to the inspector. He goes in the morning, does the inspection, sends a report to the back office. Then there is another team called report approval team. They make sure that the requirements that you asked were all correctly checked. The report is finalized, and then it is sent to the client. So if you actually see, it's just not one inspector doing the job. There's so many different people taking care of your inspection order. So that matters. That really matters. Even later on, you have a question. I saw this thing in the report, but I have further follow-up question. No problem. Come back to us. We still have that guy. He's not a freelancer working with us who goes away after 1 month and we have no clue. Everything is in a central database. The guy is still with us full time, and we can ask him questions, follow up with him. So we are a professionally run inspection company trusted by so many global companies. and it's a privately owned company managed by many people. So I would say we are much more professional than the rest, and that's why more and more even Amazon sellers are coming to us to use us.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. And of course, the fact that you're in so many different countries, it makes it easier.
Yeah,
And you offer all of the services related
yeah,
to quality control and
yeah.
inspection. That's too.
And even for different products, like I hardly can count any product in my room right now which we cannot inspect. The Coke which I'm drinking, the tissue papers I have, my phone, my desk, my chair, my uh, AC, everything. We can inspect more than 1,000 different products, even food. We also inspect food products. We also inspect fresh produce. Like if you have apples being imported from India, we can go and check them as well.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty
Yes.
exhaustive.
Yeah.
So, one issue that is, of course, very prevalent in the industry is getting kickbacks, like inspectors getting kickbacks from the factory
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pass, inspections. So,
Yeah.
do you see that issue, getting more serious now, or is it getting, less? And how do you deal with that issue?
Glad you asked, and I would not be happy if you didn't ask me. Uh, I would say I would be lying if I said it doesn't happen. It still happens. It happens in every country. Believe me, it happens in North America also. We have seen cases. Uh, so it's still there. I can't say it's increasing or decreasing, but it's still there. I can say definitely. Now, how we at Keema deal with it, and this is funny part. And I worked with three different big companies before Keema, before I moved to China, and I was surprised that those companies never thought of this solution. Look, bribery and those kickbacks are all related to money. So what Keema does is we fight money with money. So how we do it? We do it in different steps. Number one, we pay our inspectors a little higher than the industry averages. Okay, that's number one. We pay them certain bonus per report, but we don't pay them immediately. We hold that bonuses from them, maybe quarter or once in 6 months. We pay them based on their performance and other KPIs. On the side, every inspector, by the way, I missed that point about the training and expertise. All the inspectors have minimum of 3 to 5 years experience, but no matter what, if they have even 20 years experience, we put them to trainings online and also on the ground. Okay. Now, that's a beginning of their career with Keema when they are put to first trainings. And even later on, they get trainings quite often, maybe once in 10 days or 15 days, they have a training online. We have an e-learning system in the company. Even I am put to such trainings. We go through the training, we learn everything for half an hour, and then immediately it is followed up by a test. Okay. Then those tests, the marks that the inspector gets in those tests, these are connected to their bonuses. Okay. So that's how, of course, we keep them motivated enough that they are being paid well, they have bonuses, they have different KPI incentives which they can earn. The next, the actual situation, if you talk of, say, a factory offers some money to an inspector. So the first thing that the inspector has to do is he has to click a picture, okay, and he keeps that money to at the table for that moment so that his work is not affected. He continues with his job first. Evening, he gives back the money and he sends a picture back to the office to report it. Okay, if things are found that the factory was really at fault, we reward the inspector with some bonus on that. Now, that is on the inspector part. Now, like I said, we would be lying if things don't happen in our company. We still have such situations. Of course, we have human beings working with us, not robots. So if the factory says, okay, we have an inspector asking for bribe, we have an hotline number and a hotline email address where the factory can immediately call up or send an email, and we will immediately replace the inspector. Okay, so we safeguard these factories also on their terms. Every morning when an inspector goes to a factory to do the inspection, there are certain papers signed or code of conduct. Both the inspector and the factory representative, they both sign it, and that number is there. So the factory is always intimated in the morning itself that this is the number you need to call on if you see a problem. So, like I said, we have zero tolerance policies and so on. I was sitting in compliance trainings in my past companies, and literally I used to sleep. Honestly, those are boring.
Yeah.
They tell 1 hour of all these jargons of HR and compliance. I don't get it. I used to sleep. But now I see, like, yeah, it makes sense. If you fight money with money, it really makes a difference. And proudly, I can say we don't have very high rates of such issues, unlike the companies I worked for earlier.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That makes total sense. So yeah, I strongly recommend all Amazon sellers to use Keema for sure.
Thank
And of
you.
course, Rahul, you're always in all of our Facebook groups and at the Global Sources Summit as well. So I like that you're very approachable and people can just email you and reach out to you on Facebook
Anytime.
or wherever,
Anytime.
WeChat, if they have
Yeah.
any questions. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot for that. So how
Pleasure
can
is mine.
people book an inspection with Keema, and do you want to give your email address or maybe tell people where they can go and book inspections?
Sure, sure. Of course, I'm always approachable 18 hours a day until I sleep. So they can always email me. My email address is simple, rahul.chawla@keema.com. You can find me easily on Facebook or WeChat anytime. And yeah, you can simply register an account on our website, and I will activate it for you, and good to go.
Yeah,
Anytime.
so just to spell it out a little bit for people who
Yeah.
don't know, so
So my name is spelled as Rahul, Rahul, R for Rome, A for Alpha, H for Hawaii, U for Umbrella, L for Love, dot Chawla, C for China, H for Hawaii, A for Apple, W for Woman, L for Love, A for Alpha, at Keema.com, question India Mother Alpha.com.
yeah, QIMA.com.
QIMA, yeah,
Yeah, I'll
Keema.com.
also put the email address in the show notes, of course, on the
Sure,
podcast page.
sure.
Okay, awesome. Hey, Rahul, thank you so much for
Pleasure is
talking to
mine.
me today.
Thank
And
you.
I finally got you on after, I think, months of
Yeah,
asking you.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's been great talking to you. You've shared such a
Same
lot of
here.
great information. So, thank you
Thank you for
so much
having
for your
me.
time, and I'll see you
Thank you for
around.
having me. Thank you. See you around.
Bye.
Bye-bye.